Welcome to OreoOlive.com. You know, Oreo olives don't mix, but the abstract thought of putting those two words together has enlightened me to create a channel to discuss various topics. So, on today's episode, I want to talk about the impact of sitcoms and movies on real life dating and relationships. So, this is going to be a very, very good one. So, what I've been thinking about, I'm sure you all have came up with different ones and have thought about this at some point, but we definitely need to discuss this because sometimes what we see on the screen may not always be the reality. But sometimes people do get the ideas from TV, sitcom, movies, and things of that nature. But I want us to really get down deep into it and talk about how it actually impacts our day to day life. Now, how many of you have ever watched a particular movie or sitcom or romantic comedy and you thought, is that exactly how love should be? But then when you really think about it, you really find out you seen that only to be disappointed by the reality behind it. Now, when we're looking at this, we can sometimes take inspiration from like a TV couple and they can actually help improve your own relationship. But I want to look at the advantages and the disadvantages of how the entertainment industry can shape our expectations when it comes to in love and also in dating. So, of course, one of the first things that we need to look at in regards to sitcoms and movies and how they can positively influence relationships is they can basically, on the top, inspire romantic gestures. So there are many movies out there that are going to showcase something very thoughtful. They're going to also showcase some grand gestures and romantic scenes in which you'll be able to look at that. And it can oftentimes encourage people to put a little bit more effort into their relationships, whether that is you watching it for the first time, second time, or whatever, you see something different and you realize, hmm, I wonder if I try this way in my own relationship, could this work? So when you're looking at particular examples of that, it can be surprise dates, it can be heartfelt love letters, or deep conversations to help strengthen and bond the current relationship that you are in. Now, they can also provide you relationship lessons as well. We all know that some sitcoms offer valuable takeaways, and they most of the time can be about communication. It can be about compromise and also conflict resolution skills. We have seen this in so many times in so many different shows. Now, for example, when you're looking at a show like The Fresh Prince of Bel Air or Blackish, they can incorporate relationship struggles as well as growth and also make them relatable. Now, I'm a little bit biased towards that because I would probably most definitely watch Fresh Prince over Blackish. I've seen bits and pieces of Blackish, couldn't really get into it, but Fresh Prince is much more universal because pretty much everybody has seen that all over the world. I mean, who wouldn't know Tatiana Ali, Will Smith, Alfonso Ribeiro, and of course, America's TV dad? You get where I'm coming from. When we're looking at shows like that, you can see how the way that Will was in his relationships, the way that Carlton was. You can see Vivian and Philip Banks, how they were together in the sitcom. And a lot of the things that they were talking about in particularly like Fresh Prince are things that normal, average, everyday people could relate to. Now, they were definitely a high profile family in both sitcoms. But when we look at it on the surface level, Fresh Prince was definitely a little bit more relatable. Now, this can also bring the humor, the lightheartedness to relationships as well. When we're looking at this, we also have to understand that couples who watch comedies together often find themselves laughing together. They're also looking at their own relationship quirks and thinking, is this something that we have done in our relationship? And why do we do it this particular way? And see, we're able to laugh and learn about things like that, because we're able to also take it into the realization of we can normalize different types of relationships as we're watching different shows. Now, movies and sitcom will show diverse relationship dynamics. It can make it easier for people to understand and also accept various love stories that may come in different ways and forms when we're watching movies and or sitcoms. Now, the representation in the media is going to help people feel and seen and validate in their own personal experiences. You may have different couples from different ethnicities. You can also have people going through a particular problem that other couples may have seen at some point during their relationship. Now, as well as you have the positive side of that, you have the advantages. You also have to look at the disadvantages as well. And this is a very, very key piece in for you to be able to differentiate between what is real and what is a fantasy. But a lot of times, too, in bits and pieces in different sitcoms and movies, they can also set some unrealistic expectations and relationship standards. So let me give you an example. Picture you watching a sitcom and you're looking at that and you see a romantic movie that's going to paint this perfect picture of all the right gestures. It's going to be drama filled, particular love story. It's going to have leading people to believe that love should always be exciting and full of these grand romantic gestures and moments. But in reality, we know in real life that is not true. It's going to be ups, it's going to be downs. The reality check that people end up getting is that relationships can often require routine effort. It's going to require routine patience and also compromise rather than consistent surprises. So, any of you out there that are in a relationship, know that things are going well in the beginning. And then as you move throughout there, you have to understand you have to get up and go to work. One person may be feeling a specific way one day. Things may not go the way that you think they should go. And people can have an indifference of opinion. Now, this is oftentimes overlooked because they overlook the work behind the lasting love behind this. So when we're looking at sitcoms, sitcoms often are able to resolve the conflicts within one episode. So people are not able to differentiate and understand how they got out of the particular problem that they're in. Think about when you see someone doing something bad and forget an anniversary in a sitcom, they solve it in the same episode. You don't get a chance to see the true emotions that people are going through. And that can give a false sense of impression that problems should be resolved quickly. But in reality, it may take a little bit more time in real life and in relationships to discuss and have that mutual effort to resolve issues as you're coming across them. Now, they can also promote toxic and unrealistic behavior as romantic. So, in some movies, you will see somebody being glorified for possessiveness, jealousy, and toxic dynamic as signs of love. Now, when we're looking at this, for example, you may have a scene where a love interest is chasing someone who repeatedly had rejected them. Is often seen as romantic in the movies and sitcoms, but in real life, it can be unhealthy. Now, when I think about the Tyler Perry movies, this brings a great example of that because you will see a lot of times in his movies, you can kind of pre-guess what is going to happen, but sometimes he'll throw a curveball in there. With these type of movies, people would then begin to start to think that they can do these particular things that they're seeing in the movies. But in reality, it's not a romantic thing because real life takes place. People have real feelings. People are going to act a different way depending on what's going on. Now, they will also, in the movies and sitcoms, encourage the comparison and dissatisfaction. So, constant exposure to on screen fairy tales can make people compare their relationship that they have in those movies to the unrealistic standards that they are going through in real life. So what works in the movies does not will not always work in the actual live relationship. Now, this can lead to dissatisfaction. This can also get to the point where real life doesn't measure up to the scripted romance because you got to think about it. Sometimes people will see actors on the screen, they pair so well together, but they may not even like each other in real life. For example, you have the family that matters. You have the husband and wife in there, and you see how well that they blend together. You have the Banks family and Fresh Prince, how well they blend together. You have the the Cosby Show of how well they bond together, but then in real life, they may not actually like each other. And so that's what we have to get to is to really separating the two apart. Because if we're not able to do that, you would risk ruining a good relationship because you're trying to base things on what's going on out the screen. Now, between the advantages and disadvantages, you have to come to the realization what common point and what middle ground could we use here as a learning lesson to enjoy the media that we're seeing in sitcoms and movies, but also keep the realism in mind as well as we're going through this. At the end of the day, when you're looking across any of these TV shows, they are meant to entertain. They are meant to entertain you and not serve as a rule book for love. So, what you see on the screen should not be taken in every bit and piece to actual real life relationships because we have to use the positive aspects of what we're seeing as an inspiration, but also understand that real relationships take time, patience, and effort for people to gain an understanding as they are going through. We also have to be mindful of the unhealthy portrayals that we're seeing as far as love and ensure those don't influence your real life expectations as you're going through your dating process. So, fellas, ladies, when you see things on the screen, when you're seeing the perfect bodies on screen, everybody exercising, everybody's, you know, traveling and flying here, that may not happen in real life. And you have to be able to differentiate the two there. If you don't take anything else from this, you have to understand that relationship portrayals with the person that you're with to separate fiction from reality. So, what do you all think about this? Can you list some of the movies that sitcoms that you looked at that may have influenced your decision in terms of dating and what your expectations are in a positive or negative way? I definitely want you all to be able to put those in the comments because I would love to most definitely see, read, and hear what you all have to say about that. Once again, thank you for tuning in to today's episode. OreoOlive.com. Look forward to bringing more content to you all soon.